Well, happy Monday out there, U.S. history students. Mr. Olson here. Hey, this is going to be kind of my first video lesson. We have reached the end of our unit, our at-home unit on the Cold War, JFK, and then the Great Society under LBJ. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have a little PowerPoint kind of review. You've already taken notes. No new assignment to send me. Instead, get yourself ready for an at-home essay assessment. That will be posted tomorrow at 8 a.m. You'll have all day to work on it. So budget your time with your math class and your other courses and meet that due date, deadline tomorrow night, midnight. I'm not going to make it super long. There'll probably be a handful of kind of those 5-point type essay questions, but you will post it through turnedin.com. So this PowerPoint coming up is review. You won't be required to take notes. Hey, you don't even really have to watch it. I'm making it optional, but it will help you if you want to be armed with a little bit more knowledge for the essay test. So here we go now. Here come the notes. Well, not notes. Here comes the review. Okay, U.S. history students, Mr. Olson here. This is a little review PowerPoint. I know these remote learning lessons have been somewhat unique because you haven't had a chance to see me or be in my class with a lecture. So this is kind of a review lecture. No notes required. You've taken all the notes. The only thing really that we're going to be doing this week is tomorrow on Tuesday for all U.S. history classes, we will have our assessment. I'm going to be posting the assessment at 8 a.m. It's going to be all essay questions based on these things I discuss with you now. So you won't need to turn anything in except for that assessment. It's going to be posted tomorrow, Tuesday morning. You'll have till Tuesday at midnight. So I want you to budget your day tomorrow so you'll be able to answer some essay questions I post and do it within the confines of that time period. It's going to be due at midnight on Turned It In, and I'm going to be kind of watching that deadline closely, if you will. So let's go through the PowerPoint so you have some material to kind of arm yourself so you have an idea of what the key things might be that you'll see on this home assessment. First and foremost, obviously, the theme of this unit, the Cold War. The race for power between the United States of America and the Soviet Union after World War II ended. We left off, before we went away for these lessons with World War II ending, and we enter into this time period, and, Britain and France are decimated, so here comes America and Russia to be your next big powers. The UN was formed in 1945 as a peacekeeping deal, and out of the UN, quickly this competition emerged with superpowers, the United States of America and Russia. The Truman Doctrine, put forward by our president to help support governments around the world that would stay away from becoming communism. In particular, Greece and Turkey became part of this mission. Then the Marshall Plan, economic recovery for Europe. So the U.S. government was forward thinking here. They gave $13 billion to Europe to rebuild. The mindset that once Europe got back on its feet, they could become financial trade partners with us. This has helped us to this day. However, the Soviets said no. Joseph Stalin drew kind of a line in the sand. He wanted no part of this Marshall Plan, if you will, this idea, and I'm going to move my camera a little bit so you can see the title of these slides. But the Marshall Plan was an idea to help economically in Europe, and America flourished because of that. Then we have these events happen in Germany. In 1948, the Soviets put a blockade for all shipping moving into the city of Berlin. You can see on the map there on the left-hand side, now my lovely finger comes in, but that's Berlin. This area of Germany was free West Germany. The red area was controlled by the Russians, East Germany, but the blue part, Berlin, was considered West Germany. The Russians didn't like it, so they put in a blockade. So then America and England flew over 277,000 flights and dropped stuff in for those citizens. Then we have the concept of McCarthyism. We have this senator here, this conservative senator in America, accusing people of being communist. He started these Senate witch hunts. And this theory of McCarthyism might be something that you could see in the form of an essay question. So take a look at what McCarthyism is. And of course, you'll be able to research and do things during this time frame you're going to have. But the sense is that if you can give me some stuff in writing, it gives me the idea that you've learned a little bit about the Cold War. There were spies. We had this guy, Alger Hiss, accused of spying for the Soviets. Then the Ethel and Julius, the Rosenbergs, were brought into trial, and they eventually were sentenced to the death penalty because they sold secrets about the A-bomb. So there's a lot going on, a lot of tension and worry about the Cold War. You have the space race. The Russians launched Sputnik, the world's first ever satellite. That gave them bragging rights. Then America, put a bunch of money into it. JFK got elected in 1960, promised we'd put the first man on the moon. We did. Another part of the Cold War was because people were so freaked out, scared, paranoid, people built bomb shelters in their backyard. The first home my parents bought came with a bomb shelter in the backyard. And then in Asia, China becomes a communist regime led by Mao Zedong. The American public is shocked. Containment, the policy of containment had not worked. Now you have a war in Korea between North Korea, a communist state, South Korea, a free market economy, a democracy. America comes in to defend South Korea. North Korea is aided by China, and kind of in a longer route fashion, also the Soviets funneled help into North Korea. North Korea pushed into South Korea. America shows up. We push all the way to the Chinese border. Eventually, the war ends in a 2.5-year tie. Now we have the election of 1960. JFK wins the first ever TV debate. He looked better on television. And people voted for him because of that. It was a very, very, very close election. And JFK is in. All right. All these other things happen also, as JFK helped Martin Luther King when he was in jail through his brother Bobby, and he won the popular vote by 119,000, and we have JFK. And then we have all these things happening after the Berlin airlift. In 1961, right after Kennedy comes in, Khrushchev orders the building construction of the Berlin Wall to basically keep any East Germans from being able to go into West Berlin, into free territory, and then fly into free territory, such as the United States of America. All right, so the Berlin Wall goes up. You have the Bay of Pigs invasion, the attempt to overthrow the Cuban government. This is how silly this was. The CIA trains Cuban exiles to invade. They dropped 1,500 of them on this secret mission, but there were 25,000 Cuban troops. They were massively outnumbered. JFK was really angry about this. This plan started before he became president. He got swayed into it by the military leaders. We lose, and he was very irked, so much so that when this happened, when missiles were found in Cuba aimed at America, all the military wanted JFK to bomb the snot out of Cuba. He said no. You guys blew it with the Bay of Pigs. So he wouldn't go for it. So we end up with a 13-day standoff, and eventually the agreement was made that the U.S. would remove missiles from Turkey and the Russians would remove missiles from Cuba, and we avoid what could have been a total disaster and World War III. It's the closest we probably have come to a World War III. Then JFK is assassinated. LBJ is sworn in. He becomes the new president in 1963. He runs for re-election, wins in 1964. LBJ was known as a great persuader. He could talk in politicians into voting for his bills, and that became known as the LBJ treatment. Key things from LBJ that might show up on your essay test for tomorrow. Understand about his Great Society, a program that helped people. We have Medicare because of LBJ. We have rules about immigration, the Immigration Act of 1965, because of LBJ. Things like consumer protection. But LBJ, the negative side for him was the Vietnam War. We'll get into that in a couple of units, but the Vietnam War brought down LBJ. He took the brunt of a lot of what was happening, and it led him not to run for re-election. If it weren't for the Vietnam War, LBJ might be remembered as one of our greater U.S. presidents because of all these great things he did here, although some people think that, like FDR, he may have over-legislated. All right, and then the final thing from LBJ is the Warren Court. The court made a number of key decisions in the early 60s around human rights and arrest rights. Miranda versus Arizona. This man in Arizona is accused. He did commit the crime. He raped and kidnapped a woman, actually kidnapped, then raped her. He was browbeat into a confession by the police who never read him his rights. So now, when you are arrested, hopefully you won't be, but anybody arrested gets read their rights. And this guy's name, Miranda, is now a book term. Did you Mirandize him? Other key cases, Matt versus Ohio, search and seizure laws, the right to an attorney, Gideon versus Wainwright, the right to have an attorney present when you're questioned by police. These are all things that protect us more and give us human rights. So be ready tomorrow for the assessment test. You'll send it to me via turntheitin.com. If you cannot get turntheitin.com to work, then you will just share it with me and I'll run it through the turntheitin.com filters. Get that to me tomorrow, and then Wednesday morning I'll be posting the first bit of work for our next unit. We'll get into the civil rights. That's what we'll be doing next. That will come on Wednesday. All right, everybody, stay healthy out there. Miss seeing you in class. You got to hear my voice today, see me a little bit up front and here on the backside right now. Mr. Olson, here's some final thoughts. Again, watch for that assessment tomorrow, 8 a.m. It'll be posted on School Loop. You'll have till midnight to submit that on turntheitin.com. And then on Wednesday, look for a new mid-morning posting from me on Wednesday with our next set of notes, etc. So we're going to keep moving along to our next unit on the civil rights. Take care, everybody, and stay healthy.